back to the question of what do they need? I think the first thing they need is they need to realize that like life will kick the shit out of them. And this is just the first time or the beginning of it.
20 to 30-year-olds right now, what do you think they need to focus on in order to be in the best position to move forward now and after this situation?
So what do 20 to 30-year-olds now need to do to, I don't know, get a grip in life, like figure their shit out, make a move, compete, be successful, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. Get their life on track and get into a position that they're going to be the most successful that they can be.
Yeah. So okay. So let's start the conversation of the reality with the 20 to the 30-year-old, the 20 to the 30-year-old. They have never gone through anything like this before. They've never experienced some stress, some opposition, some obstacle like this. Truthfully, I don't even know if people, not just the 20 to 30-year-old, but people in general realize the impact and the situation that we're in. I think a lot of people are blissfully unaware. I think some of us are optimistic. I would put myself in that category, being the optimist.
Yeah.
But you know, particularly back to the question of what do they need? I think the first thing they need is they need to realize that like life will kick the shit out of them, and this is just the first time or the beginning of it. Like the majority of younger generation, like many other generations, have been raised better than their previous generation. It just happens to be the kids between, or not the kids, the young adults between the ages of 20 to 30. And it's fucked up that I'm talking about this because, like, I would consider,
you feel that age?
Right. I wouldn't consider myself that. Like, I'm 42, but I remember being 20, 22, 24 and thinking, wow, 40 is so fucking old. Like, by 40,
I remember too.
Right. But anyway, not to make this a generational thing, but to really make this like an experience thing, which is the reality is this demographic, the young adults have not had the experience in order to deal with what they need to deal with. Our grandparents went through the Great Depression. Our parents went through things like the recession and things like 80s and like, you know, the real estate recession. We've been through it. This is the first time. And the other reality to that is this generation's been raised, or that particular demographic has been raised in a very soft way, super soft. Opposition, obstacles, boundaries have been moved. What was the celebrity that paid off the university? She's going to jail now.
Oh, Lori something.
Lori from Full House.
From Full House, yeah.
Actually, yeah, Lori from Full House.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that's an example. Kids didn't have to stress to compete to get in. And that's not to say that all parents did that, but it is to say that as parents, we've all tried to do better than the previous generation. This was the point I was making before. And in our effort to do better and better and better and better, we've gotten to a stage of raising people in a, I'm just going to say it, in a irresponsible way. We haven't allowed certain individuals, people, to develop the skills of communication, the resilience, the emotional fortitude in order to survive in this world, because all we've wanted to do is make it really soft. Look, I got kids. I do the same fucking thing. And I catch myself. I'm like, fuck, I can't do that.
Yeah. You know, it is really interesting, even on that note. So we're trying to save like RESPs and save all this stuff for our kids' education and all that. My parents, I think they would have liked to, but they also considered, you know what, by then you're going to be on your own. So it never crossed my mind that they would pay for my education. I moved out super early and I paid for it all on my own. And I do remember being, you know, angry sometimes because I would see other people and I'd be like, oh my God, you have loans, or you have, you know, your parents are paying for this. And I was working and going to school full time. But to that point, I'm glad I did it, because I figured it out, and I know how to eat half a box of Kraft Dinner and half a Smoky to keep myself to survive. So you do learn things through having to go through hard times.
Right. Right. And your parents said, like, no, sorry, like the line you just use is, no, they'll be adults by then. They'll be fine. By adult, they'll they'll feed themselves. They'll get a job. They'll pay their rent. They'll this. Absolutely. Bluntly, Jadine, you and I were the last generation to go through that type of parenting.
Yeah, because then I think the pendulum switched, and then the focus then became that was bad parenting if you weren't providing for your kids. And we've lost sight that the too much providing and putting people in bubble wrap doesn't allow them to learn and to flex their natural resiliency muscles. You can't build a muscle if you never get to use it.
Right.
And it's so funny, I was talking to a woman yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that she feels pressure as a mom if her kids cry. And so we were talking about the concept that, you know what, if your kid is crying sometimes, it actually means you're parenting. That's what parenting looks like.
And let's just define that. It doesn't mean that you don't nurture the child when they're crying. You just don't try to remove the feeling that they went through. I think back to this, the mistake in parenting, and, you know, back to, hey, if you're 20 to 30 years old, like, I'm sorry, your parents fucked you up, but they totally fucked you up, and they haven't prepared you for what like needs to happen and what you need to do. But the reality is it's okay to nurture the child, but the mistake is parents have tried to remove the feeling. Try to remove the pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know, I'll never forget a story. Peter Jensen, who's an amazing sports psychologist that we worked with, he told me a story when we were on a plane one time, and it was about an Olympic athlete. She was a speed skater, and she was preparing to have a medal performance at the Olympics, and she didn't skate well. It was not a good performance. So after she was cooling down, she was bawling her eyes out. And just the scene of this broken athlete, devastated, and her coach and Peter were talking, and the coach said, you know what, I'm going to go talk to her. Like, I'm going to go try to like make her feel better. And Peter said to the coach, why would you do that? Why would you take away this opportunity for her to feel what she needs to feel?
Right.
And it's so powerful. And I think about that because your instinct as a parent is to jump in, because you think, I'm not being a good parent if I don't. And sometimes we need to fight that instinct.
You know, so my son, his name is Rain. You know, I don't talk about my kids a lot and stuff, but like now I use his name. His name is Rain. And he's an amazing little kid. Anyway, he's swimming. He's 3.5 years old, right? And the story is about sort of surviving, treading water. Anyway, he's been really adamant about not wearing wings. Anyway, it started about 3-4 weeks ago. I was like, all right, let's go in the water and pool, and we'll get him swimming and get him treading and stuff. Anyway, long story short, my wife freaks out. She fucking loses it. Because I let him tread. I let him sink.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing fucking happens where this little 3.5-year-old starts to kick his legs. And he starts to kick his arms. And we've got one of these swim spas, so there's all these little handles around the pool.
Okay.
So he's in, like, in fact, it's a really great sort of, call it, pool for teaching kids how to swim, because there's something they can grab a lot. But the mistake we make is we launch in as parents way too quickly and lift them up. Anyway, this kid in 3 weeks is he's like Michael Phelps. He's just walking. He's doing the backstroke. He's doing breaststroke. It's the most amazing little thing. He's doing front crawl. Like, it is insane in 3 weeks. And it all starts from just like not grabbing the kid in the moment.
Yeah. And it's the law of natural consequences. So when he doesn't kick, he's going to drown, but he's going to figure that out. And as long as from a safety perspective, as long as you're there, you're actually teaching him that he can fight through it and that he can believe in himself.
Right. And just to clarify, I didn't let my kid drown. Like it wasn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're there from a safety perspective, but yeah.
Right.
So I do. Yeah. Go on.
I was just going to say, just so I don't lose the train of thought, like I think this is the message to the 20 to the 30-year-old. You got to keep kicking. You got to keep treading. Right now, we started the conversation on what advice would you give the 20 to 30-year-old. I'd say your biggest job right now is to tread. And treading is hard. If you're an ex-swimmer and synchro, you know what it's like to tread water. It is hard.
It is. And you know what? And the other thing I'd say is flip the message. I feel the difference between our generation and this current generation is there's been so much pressure that they've grown up in, quote unquote, the public eye with social media, which I don't mind, by the way, but with social media, there's been this pressure to have a facade of we've got it all together. And so I think they try to seem like it's all together when it's really not. So I would say flip it and take pride in the fact that I am kicking. Take pride in the fact that, you know what, I'm not that we can go out these days, but I'm going to pre-drink. Like, I don't know about you, but I was pre-drink before I went out because I knew I couldn't afford to drink down on, King Street. So flip it and just be proud of the fact that you're trying to stand on your own 2 feet and you find your way. Rather than being upset that, oh, I can't do what my other, rich friends can do or whatever, flip it and be proud of what you're doing to keep yourself afloat.
I liked what you said earlier, not about the drinking, the pre-drinking, yes, which is all what we did, but being able to flip that narrative in yourself, which is like, right now I'm just kicking and swimming and treading and like, I'm going to get stronger. Like that's
and look what I'm doing. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. To I think social media and flossing and fucking throwing it out there and like putting it all on, in some regards, maybe, let me ask you this. Do you think that 20 to 30-year-old has been conditioned to not feel what they should feel? In other words, they've grown up in this world of image, social, life is good, this is what I should be like, and if I do feel this way, I can't even go there. In other words, do they even realize how fucked they are?
Probably not, because it's a world of facade and inauthenticity. And to be fair to them, the challenge is that, like, if you or I weren't invited to a party, it sucked and we stayed at home. But we weren't then subjected to seeing all the images of how much fun everyone was having.
Right.
So like the problem is they can't escape it. So then you're always trying to, and as a teenager and as a young person, the emotions are really strong. So you're always trying to pretend. So I think they've had a disadvantage in that way. Absolutely.
Man, this is going to take them a hell of a lot of work to like unlearn what they've learned.
Yeah, but there's also, and we're starting to see it even on social media now, there's also a way to leverage each other and to support each other on social media. Personally, I feel that's been part of what's been nice about this particular pandemic that we're in, and I even hate saying the word anymore, but there is a way to help support each other and to leverage each other up. So if I always say the words like sweat your system. So what I mean by that is the people who are your core group, who you can be authentic with and who are like-minded to you and who give you energy. Here's actually, interestingly, when you talk to high performers, the top 15% of top earners, people who are happy, whatever, top 15% of high performers, the one thing when you ask them what they want in life, they usually want more energy. They want the energy to be optimistic. They want the energy to have resilience. They want energy. So we get energy by crafting it and by who we allow around us. So the opportunity is just like the people who you're close to, sweat them, support each other. Say, I'm doing this course. What are you doing? Right? And then you leverage the energy of the group. That's part of how they can get some traction.
You have loss of energy.
Yeah, and it's even the end of the day.
Like wow.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. As long as you teach like this, I think we're going to translate well on Zoom.
I do. Yeah, I'm like, ooh. Yeah.
So good.
I also, oh yeah, side note. I also read this, I was listening to a TED Talk today, and they were talking about TED Talks that go viral. So they did a study between ones that went viral and didn't. And one of the key descriptors is hand gestures.
Yeah.
So of the viral TED Talks, people did about 492 hand gestures in 18 minutes. The lowest viewed ones were about 270 hand gestures.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's just validated, for me, because I'm a big hand talker.
We talk about this a lot, right? Expressive behavior and expressive emotion, expressive hand gestures.
Yeah. Okay, but here, like, seriously, if we're going to talk about the 20 to 30-year-old, I would say recognize you're more resilient than you might actually think you are. And here's the other thing I keep hearing is people who I've heard have lost their job. I've heard this conversation of, I've just lost everything. Everything I worked towards all of those years, I've just lost it. And I'm thinking like, are you kidding me? Even if your industry shut down, all of those skills that you learned, you are going to transfer them. Like for me right now, all the skills I learned in synchronized swimming and having to navigate a very intense culture, those are the exact skills that I leverage when I'm working with executive groups. You don't lose anything, you transfer it.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. And to that advice, you still have a long time to gain more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you're 25 and like you should be here. I think, look, the reason, and I was talking with a marketing guy earlier, which
Mm-hmm.
was around sort of the messaging we want to put out for Better Human. And I was like, I want every 20 to 30-year-old to come through this program and recognize that they need to go through personal development. That's it, right? The emotional fortitude, the emotional intelligence, the communication skills, the assertiveness, the self-esteem, the confidence. Like you need to build it because that's what allows you to be resilient while going through the experience. And then when you've gone through the experience, you're able to take that knowledge or that quotation experience, which builds your resilience and your self-esteem and your confidence and your ability to do it better again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And have some support for how to do that. So I guess talking about the system, you have the support of the cohort that you go through it with, and then some skills training. Right. You know what, one thing, so George, as you know, so he's in the hospitality industry. He was a bartender, now he's a distiller. His industry is totally shut down. And so he's needed to pivot too. And one of the things that's really helped him, I know, and we both talked a lot about, is apparently the CEO from Kind Bars, because a friend of his used to work for this guy, and in his office he has a trophy, like remember little like trophies from when you were a kid? Yeah, it's a trophy of every business he started that failed. And it's his, they're trophies. It's his actual way.
How many trophies?
Oh, I don't know. But I think a lot. It's enough to be noticeable. But the point is, he is literally, again, we talked about flip the narrative. He's literally anointed them as those show the milestones that I've come to now have the knowledge to start from here. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh my God, I failed 8 times, 10 times. How can I ever be successful? Look at the evidence of this. It's actively choosing to recognize this is everything I've gained in the experience along the way, and I'm going to leverage that for next. The other challenge that I think the 20 to 30-year-olds have, also based on this whole facade thing, is I think they think that other people have it more together than they actually do.
Right.
It's because everybody's putting on this facade, so it's like, oh, you're good. Yeah. And then they feel like, yeah, but I'm all turned up inside. But you and I both know, as you said, we still feel like we're 25. And what people don't recognize is it takes a lot of work to present like this. It doesn't mean just because we present like this, we've got it all figured out. Yeah. We're in the background going, I don't know what the hell we're going to do. Yeah. We don't know either, but you're just trying to figure it out. So I think that creates this big extra block for people.
There's the advice. The advice is have comfort in the unknown.
Yeah.
Like you're figuring it out. That's okay.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but the more people I get to work with, like we work with some really amazing people, like people
Right.
who lead global companies. And the
Right.
more I work with people like that, I realized how messed up they are.
Mm-hmm.
The people who I would think literally would have it all together, they don't always.
Yeah.
And
I think we need to redefine what having it together is.
yeah.
I think there's been this definition of like, and it almost comes from the 50s, which is the 2.3, the family with the 2.3 kids, the white picket fence, like that whole sort of traditional aspect. Even in some capacity, it's sort of rolled down through the generations that today it sounds like, oh, I got to look like I've got my life together. I got to look like I've got a great job. I got to look like I have a great relationship. I got to look like I eat well. I got to look like I live a fitness life. I got to look. And the truth to it is, it's a fucking facade. None of this shit matters, because the only person you go to bed with at night, truly, right, is yourself. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you might,
absolutely.
right? That's it. I was gonna make a rude joke, like saying you might bang a couple people, but like at the end of the day, when you close your eyes, you're going to bed with yourself, right?
Yeah.
The only, it's like golf. The only person you're lying to, the only person you're robbing from getting better is yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, and you know what too? The other thing is, as you're talking, I was thinking about what I think about my grandma growing up. She, they lived in a pressure of a facade too. She was always supposed to be like the put together wife,
Right.
and the dad was supposed to seem put together too. So interestingly, now it's more publicized through a bigger medium, but there, I think there's always been that pressure of putting it on. And recently, we did a training last week, you and and I was so surprised at the number of people who talked about how their parents were alcoholics, especially a number of the dads.
Right.
And because people had to hold it all in, and men especially weren't allowed to share, right? They
Oh
didn't they didn't
yeah.
have girlfriends like girls do.
Yeah. And not only that, like as a that generation, as a man, you were tough, you were strong, and what that meant was you internalized. And the truth to it is, we know from, at least from a psychology standpoint, the worst thing a human can do is internalize emotion.
Hmm.
It is the most destructive, unhealthy thing you can do, is internalize emotion. People talk about mindset and consciousness and breathing. And the reason people are talking about all this stuff is because of the internalized, or what is called unexpressed emotion, that
Hmm.
sits in them.
Yeah.
Chinese medicine, my brother, who's a Chinese medicine doctor, talks about this a lot, which is, you know, um, fire in the belly, right?
Hmm.
Which is a descriptor for, again, it's emotion. It's all down to emotion. Anyway, it's, to
Yeah,
your
it's
point,
true.
back to the 20, 30-year-old, the greatest thing they could do is recognize, I think, they have no image or facade to live up to.
Yeah. If anything, just like do your best and get out
Fuck
there.
do
And
your best. No,
it's
no, no, no,
literally
no.
no.
Fuck do your best. Not that
No, you
one.
let me
No, 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 no,
finish.
no.
Let me
Okay,
finish.
fine. Go, go.
The point is, not, I get it. And trust me, even in athletics, it's like, you don't get to say you did your best if your best sucked. So I get where you're going.
Okay.
It's just like, literally do your best and actually like move towards action. It's about doing actions. I think there's this wrong idea that I need to sit on the couch and I need to figure it out and I need to contemplate. And a friend who is a counselor, she calls it navel gazing. She's like, too much navel gazing, you're not going forward. So stop navel gazing. You're not gonna figure it out on your couch. You actually need to go and do something. Well, I guess now we're stuck on our couch, but at least like,
Right.
skill up. What are the skills you need to do? So then find a way to do it and reach out to your connections.
Back to a friend of mine called me the other day, and he said, "Hey, would you speak to this guy I know, young guy also. I think he's maybe 30 actually. And he's got a training company where he does things like business writing and business writing courses. Really talented fucking dude. Really talented fucking dude. Anyway, I was like, sure. And I was like, why do you want me to talk to him? He was like, well, maybe you could help him transition to the digital business. You pivoted. Maybe you could give him advice as a training company and what you need to do, blah, 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 blah. And of course, like my ego goes up because I'm like, for sure I could give him advice. But truthfully, what I'm thinking is like, I don't know if anything I'm going to tell this dude is anything he doesn't know. Anyway, get on the phone with the guy, telling me about blah, 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 what he's doing, but he's waiting. He's not sure. He wants to do it perfectly. He wants to record it. He wants to make it. He wants to this. I said, bro, just fucking turn the camera on and do it. And then call up the client and be like, I got this thing. Do you want it? Stop waiting to make it so perfect. Stop waiting to make it the social media facade of the green bowl fucking Buddha salad. It has nothing to do with that. To your point, it has everything to do with just doing. That's it.
And through doing, that's how you figure it out. Yeah,
Right.
I remember when I started doing sales stuff, and you and I've talked about this, I would try to too figure out what's the exact question I'm supposed to ask. You hear about all these closing questions, right? And so then through trying to be perfect, it's paralyzing. Right. And so you and Nicole were really good at saying, you know what, if you wait too long to have the perfect way of saying it, you're going to miss the whole opportunity.
Right, but to that point, and take it from, we'll talk about 20 to 30-year-olds, but take it to a 29-year-old. You're what, 29?
Yeah,
right.
45. Yeah.
So take it from a 45-year-old, where you and I started, not too long ago, like last few years. And I remember a very distinct conversation of you saying to me, Greg, I'm not good at sales. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, first, you don't need to sell.
Right.
You're amazing at sales. Amazing. Why? Because sales, and we got into the conversation, what sales are about, which is what they are and which they aren't, which is more what we believe the relationship economy. But it was funny. It took you a while of doing that before you actually started to believe it yourself.
Yeah, it did. Well, and the biggest difference is it is the mindset shift in terms of when you have something to then move towards, it makes it motivating and empowering. So as soon as I started to realize I could just focus on relationships where I'm comfortable, then that works. Right. So it is the same thing, even like back to our 20, 30-year-olds. You probably survived some things in your life that were really difficult for you. And you're gonna use that and leverage it. Yes.
Let me make it more simple. If I was to ask you today, are you a good salesperson? Like yeah. Are you good at doing business development?
I'm really good at it.
Right. You are. Right.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
Right. And like, even the way you said that, I'm like, I'm wondering if she's going to fake this answer right now. But you're like, no, fuck you, motherfucker. I'm really good. Right? Yeah. So the message is sometimes we just need to do it in order to realize how good we are at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Like, we're all waiting for this opportunity to feel safe and comfortable in doing it. But the truth to it is, it's through doing it that we look back and we're like, man, I'm really good at this.
Yeah, I agree. It's only through doing it. And the best advice I heard recently was get in the game. Just get in the game.
To start running, to start playing. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. Because it won't be until it's your 50th speech or your 100th pitch. That's when you'll actually figure out how you want to position something. So yeah, just get in and you'll figure it out.
Hey, I'm Greg Witz. Thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. So I'd highly suggest that you click this video over here. And don't forget to subscribe and share.